I would like to just kind of tell you, obviously you know why you're here. We're a business-to-business marketing association, right? So if you're in that B2B space, you're in the right place. Hey, that should be a... No, it shouldn't. That was very bad. That was very bad. I would like to thank, just briefly as we kind of get started, I'd like to thank our sponsors. First of all, you should have one of these sitting at your table. If you saw that when you sat down. I don't know how you do things, but I like that they led with Pizza Party and ended with HP Latex 370. Some people don't get excited about that. Let me tell you probably should, because Boingo Graphics is an incredible sponsor. They do a great job. Anything print related is you need to check them out and bring your business over there. So there's a good place to RSVP on the back. Again, maybe you're into the printer, maybe you're not, but chances are good you're into pizza. So go to the party. We'd like to thank the Hampton Inn South Park. They've always been very, very good to us, and we appreciate them as a sponsor. I don't know if I saw anybody from Hampton Inn here today. Google it. You know where it is. We'd like to thank Michael Obiondo Photography. They are our still photography sponsor, and they always do a great job of taking pictures of events and things for us. We appreciate them. And it almost feels disgusting to mention it, but LEC Media also is a sponsor. I only say that because I'm involved there, but we appreciate that they provide the video services here to get these up on YouTube. So that's another thing you should know is if you go to the BMA Carolinas website, go to the YouTube channel that links from there, then you can watch past speakers and past events that we've had there, and so we appreciate that. Also, I feel like you should know that especially as BMA continues to grow, sponsorships is a great opportunity. So if you're interested in sponsorship, Chad, where are you? Where is he? Chad? Oh, he's over there. He's getting food. There he is. So see Chad if you want to sponsor events or have a year-long sponsorship to BMA. We provide a lot of programs. You're obviously here to see one today. We have some upcoming programs, and so it's probably in my best interest to introduce Adam Holdenbach, who will tell you a little bit about programs that are coming up.
All right, in the interest of time, I'll keep this pretty short and sweet, but we do have some great programs coming up. Next month, we are going to hear from Julie Norris from Marketo. She's going to be presenting on Tomorrow's Marketer, Driving Engagement, Experience, and Revenue. That's on the 17th. We typically hold our luncheons on the third Thursday of the month, but in April, it's going to be on the third Wednesday, so it's going to be April 20th. We're going to hear from a B2B trade show and event specialist named Robin Davis. She's going to talk about 5 essential steps to exhibition success. So if you're into any of that, make sure you show up for those, because I think they're going to be 2 great luncheons. I also want to let everybody know that our ProAds Awards is now open and accepting entries. If you haven't entered into ProAds before, it's our Best of Carolinas B2B marketing competition. We give out awards, gold, silver, bronze, and some best ofs for quality work. So when most competitions, when you enter, you're basically judged against other entries in your category. We don't necessarily judge like that. We judge based on scores. And so if you do quality enough work, it will be recognized. So it's based on how the judges perceive your entry, and we will give awards based on the scores and not necessarily based on how you compare against other entries. So definitely check that out. We are also going to be doing a B2B Marketer of the Year, which is an individual nomination. It's free to enter that. There's details on the website. Basically, you just download a PDF, fill it out, and send it to us via email. And there's also going to be this year a new one, which is a Young Professional Marketer of the Year. And we are accepting entries for anyone who's in the 18 to 35 age range who's a B2B marketer, and you can submit someone and we'll recognize someone in that category as well this year. So if you have any questions on ProAds, you can find me or just go online and find the email address, but everything's on the website along with the events, and we hope to see you at the upcoming events and hope to get your entries for the ProAds. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jillian Hillard. I am the Vice President of the BMA Association and also the Director of Brand Marketing at Electrolux for the Small Appliances team. I am super excited about this luncheon. This is our 2nd year doing a corporate panel. For those of you who missed it last year, it was a lot of fun, a lot of great insights, and so our team got together and said, we have to do this again, and we have a very exciting group of panelists. So I think this will be a very enjoyable event for you, and you'll be able to have some great takeaways from some of the top corporate marketers in our Charlotte market here. one of the things that I want to point out about who we invite and why we invite is that we look at some of the top marketers in our area and what they're doing, what their successes are, and so forth. And so we invite these panelists in particular. And so again, I think we have a wide variety of panelists who have very different experiences, but also can come together on a lot of the different topics. So I'm going to go ahead and just introduce our panel up here. Our first is Michael Roth. He is the Senior Director of eCommerce for MSC Industrial Supply Company. We have Dana Saylors, who is our VP of Marketing and Product Strategy of Verian Technologies. We have Angelo Grillas, who is actually a cohort of mine, whom I truly enjoy working with, Director of Marketing, Electrolux Professional. Cheryl Richardson Turning, who is the Senior Director of Marketing and Communications for the Compass Group, also that division of Foodbuy. And I am pleased to announce our moderator this year. You may have recognized him from our panel last year. Is John Buckner, who is our VP of Marketing, S&D Technologies. He really did a great job last year. We wanted to invite someone who had been a part of the panel back as a moderator because they knew the flow and the experience, and we're very excited to have John, so I'm going to turn it over to him. Thank you for being here.
All right, welcome everybody. Thanks, Jillian. It's great to see everybody investing in their work life today, and we've got beautiful weather. We were just remembering that last year we had ice and snow. Do you remember that? And we had an incredible turnout, so appreciate you investing your time to be with us this afternoon. Great food, isn't it? BMA really did a great job. Let's give them a hand. We have a distinguished panel. You're going to learn a lot today, and I think it would be important for you to get a quick overview first to get context about where these fine people are coming from, because if you really understand the context in which they are doing so many great marketing initiatives, I think you'll be able to appreciate their comments as we get into some of the various areas of marketing that we're going to cover off. And I'm going to tell you about those too because I'd like you to think about a question or two that you might have for these panelists. And you'll understand that better if you know what the themes are today. So we'll touch on both. But before we do those themes for the questions, I'm going to start back with Michael over on the far side. And I just want just a short sketch, who you work for and what kind of an organization is it, maybe the scale, and maybe one or two things about the marketing department that occurs there. So Mike is with MSC Industrial Supply.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for inviting me here today and being able to share some of my experience and knowledge. But many of you haven't heard of MSC before. It's an industrial supplier. We participate in the MRO marketplace, and we really sell, well, just about anything really, work gloves to abrasives to advanced metal cutting technology that really helps manufacturing plants and facilities stay up and running. And we've been around for 75 years. We're celebrating our 75th anniversary this year. And just a fun fact to it, I'm responsible for e-com. So that means anything digital that's happening at mscdirect.com. And for the last 15 years, we've been on this kind of digital transition. And over the last 15 years, we've grown our business. 0% of it was e-com 15 years ago. And you fast forward now 15 years, and we're up to over 50% of our business, which is nearly $3 billion now. 50% of that is now transacted online. So from a marketing organization, we're kind of a bit of a team that's in transition right now. We are going through this evolution, as I'm sure many of you are as well, as we transition some of our old school traditional techniques over to some more digital techniques. And we're really starting to focus on trying to be less one size fits all and really trying to figure out who our customer really is, what they want, and how we can serve them better for them to reach their goals. So excited to be here, excited to be part of a marketing organization that is going through this transition. I'm sure many of you are going through similar things as well, and hopefully I can share some insights today that'll help you along in that journey.
Thank you, Mike. The next panelist we have is Dana Saylors. And Dana, if you could share with us just a little bit about Verian Technologies.
Sure. So Verian Technologies, well, actually, it's just Verian, rebranded. Forgot to mention that. Brand violation. Is an enterprise software company south of Valentine. They offer an e-procurement system. So companies that have a lot of indirect spend implement an e-procurement system like a shopping cart. So you go into your corporate e-catalog portal and you'd order any goods or services or assets that you need to do your job. And it automatically goes through an approval workflow, purchase orders are generated. When those things are received, they're reconciled, and then it all feeds into the AP system. So so I'll give you some characteristics about our situation and where we are competitively, so you can kind of understand the challenges. So a couple of years ago, I've been working with them for about 2 years now. They've been around for about 20 years. We're coming up on 20 years. And it had been completely started out of the Ben Craig Center, if you guys are familiar, and it had grown organically. So it was still pretty small relative to other competitors that have entered more recently into the market in the e-procurement space. So, 2 years ago, it was, a company that was competing with far fewer resources than the high flyer out of, Silicon Valley that has $200 million in venture funding. How do you compete in that type of environment? And so, we have rebranded the company. We've built something that looks like an enterprise software company. So there's kind of the branding strategy, and there's the whole marketing infrastructure that we built over the past 2 years. And we have now been recognized by Gartner. We were last year, and the first time, if you guys are familiar with the Gartner Magic Quadrant, we were recognized as one of the top global e-procurement leaders in the world. Little Verian down south of Valentine. How do you do that, right? That's not something that, there are a lot of things, and we're going to get into a lot of those themes that John and I were talking about. So if you see Lauren and Lindsay, raise your hands over there. That's the entire marketing team at Verian. So.
Thank you, Dana.
Sure.
Up next is Angelo with Electrolux Professional.
So that's actually also one of our biggest challenges, is that Electrolux Professional as a global company has been around. We're going to be celebrating 100 years in another 4 years from now. So it'll be 100 years. We've just nearly crossed over the 100-year anniversary of the Electrolux brand globally. And yet, Electrolux is still a new brand within this country. I think that everybody around the table will remember, or in some way has been touched by an Electrolux vacuum through their family, and that's a great heritage, because that also explains, how old we've been and how reliable a product was back in the day. Electrolux Professional is a division that is now hovering on its 100-year anniversary, but is only 12 years young in this country. My division, I've been with it since the start in 2004, and it's the commercial division of Electrolux. We are the #1 brand of food service and laundry in the world when we talk about solutions. And that is also something that we'll touch on, in terms of a marketing strategy throughout the day, some of the questions. Where we needed to pick a strategic stance, because if you guys are familiar with commercial food service or commercial laundry, think of anything outside the home, and think of every restaurant you walked into or hotel kitchen that you might have experienced at a banquet, and now think about the hundreds of brands that outfit those environments. Some brands have marketing teams that are dedicated to a brand strategy, and other companies have a bigger, deeper portfolio, and that's our challenge right now, and I think I'll address some of those challenges throughout the day. But I've been with the company since fruition here in North America, so I've seen a lot of change, and hopefully we've built up a brand name strong enough within the commercial segment through a selective process, and we'll discuss a little bit about that. But in terms of responsibilities, Small marketing team, a lot of outsourced resources, as well as a culinary team, because being entrenched in food service, commercial food service, you're talking directly to end users, and those end users are chefs. And chef-to-chef discussion is very important, and I'll talk a little bit about digital strategy later on. Thanks.
Thanks, Angelo. Next we have Cheryl with Compass Group Foodbuy.
So Compass Group is the 8th largest employer in the world, and so many people say it can't be, not in the world, because I've never heard of it. We have more than 20 plus brands that service corporations around, and I'm guessing that most of you, especially those of you that are in a large organization, we are there. So it may be if you're in one of the banks, it's probably your Rest. If you're in education, it's probably Chartwell's. If you're in healthcare, then it's Morrison, and on and on. And so I work for Foodbuy. Foodbuy is the procurement company that manages all of the contracts for all of the brands. And so all the things, all the foods and services that we sell, my company, Foodbuy, we buy more than food, is the contracting arm. So we manage about $20 billion in managed spend volume each year. And my responsibility from a marketing perspective is really making sure that we have contract utilization. So our customers are looking for how do I know which suppliers are the ones that Foodbuy has contracted with, and what's the best way for me to utilize those contracts so that I save money. I've got traceability, I've got all of the food items, but also on the non-food side, we want to make sure that we're making that our customers have the best products that they can have as well. So I would say our team is a team of 6, one of which is here, Carolyn is here, and we are really transitioning our culture from communicating with our customers to more of that marketing savvy. So it's been an interesting ride, and we're still in the middle of that roller coaster, but it's good.
So now you got some context. We understand where these folks are coming from. And, you know, aren't we grateful that right here in the Charlotte market, we have these fantastic companies? It's amazing what we have in the metropolitan Charlotte market. And I'm always astonished at the kind of talent that we have on the panel and also in this room. Here's some of the themes that we're going to touch on today so that you can get your thoughts, collect your thoughts, get your questions ready. We're going to talk about content and social strategy, talking about reaching decision makers, sometimes called buying influences, and what are some of the marketing tactics that the panel is using to reach these decision makers. Talk about working cross-functionally. You're going to hear sometimes about smaller marketing groups always working really closely with senior management, with operations, with sales, with distributor partners, with suppliers. Cross-functionality is so vitally important. Resource allocation. So how do you do more with less? How do we make our budget dollars? How do we spread them? How do we scale programs that might be small and make them large and more impactful? So we'll talk about resources. Trends. Are there some trends that we need to spot for 2016? And the panel has some trends that they want you to know about. And then we're going to talk about measurement. How do we measure our marketing programs, which I think everybody would agree is absolutely critical, especially when you think about return on investment and whether or not we're going to get more marketing dollars in 2017 than we got in 2016, then we're going to need to prove it. And so how are we going to be able to demonstrate that? And then finally, personal development. So how can we grow as marketing professionals? And I think today's a good first step in that people are investing in their work life by being here with us for lunch today. So those are the themes that we're going to address as we get through the panel discussion this afternoon. It should be a lively discussion. So here's our format. What we'll do is we've already met. I actually had breakfast with the group as well as the senior committee for BMA, and we've developed some answers in some of these buckets that you just heard. So we've got a primary presenter, and they'll share a little bit with their own answer to a particular question, what they're doing in their business. And we'll hear those, and then we'll get through each one of those themes, and then we'll go back. And so write down your question, we'll go back, and as time allows, we'll take your questions, as many as we can, and that'll be a lively dialogue. We'll have a good discourse back and forth. Okay, so let's start with content and social strategy. The question on the table is, with content strategy being such a hot topic in the last few years, where does your team stand in terms of development and implementation of a content strategy? Are you utilizing social channels? And we're going to start with Angelo on that one.
Okay, I think to answer this question, also I have to admit to the fact that this has been also one of our biggest challenges. This past year, maybe year and a half, we've really strongly identified our target segments that Electrolux belongs in, and that's taken some time, and it really has taken maybe the last 5 years of honing it down. So that lays the foundation. But with digital transformation being such a hot topic within our company, we're also faced with, because we're the commercial division, we're faced with an environment that is really slow to adapt to it, or even be a part of it, and that has been a challenge. So as eager as we are internally of implementing a social strategy and be on every channel and come up with original content, we also have to find ways to reach customers that are really not that social, or not online, or aren't even active in those environments. So I have to admit to the fact that we are also not fully committed to a digital strategy, so we're integrating it this year. As part of that, I think that the major things that we've had to do internally is not jump into it, but come up with a strategy. And the three major components, of course, are really planning for it. So have a strategy and have a plan going forward into how you're delivering that content, and to who you are. Because from a commercial environment, the who is very layered out there, and our channel to the end user is a complicated channel to get through. And so who are we talking to in the various social channels? We are active on LinkedIn because we're more B2B. We find a lot of our end users are there. The other one is Facebook, where we are active, but we're not talking to end users at that point. Then we're talking to the channel, and we're supporting the channel. So then we have two different channels with two different strategies. And then the third one that we'll probably be dabbling in more the second half of this year is Instagram. And that's just because that's where the foodie environment lives, and we'd like to talk to that environment. We have to have the right message to that environment. So I guess some of the realizations that we've had is the acceptance of a knowledge bank. And in some of our discussions, we talk about, I think Dana talked a little bit about it, about larger companies and smaller divisions. And commercial is a division within Electrolux, a big company. And there are a lot of thought leaders within our company, and there's a lot of thought leaders within the industry in different topics. So pooling that knowledge and then adding to that. And our approach is the solutions approach. So really identifying the different content that already exists out there, be it the latest trend in K-12 child nutrition, or equipment trends, so high-speed cooking and delivering to the QSR market or the fast food market, and then how does Electrolux play that role? So that was something that we had to really analyze last year going into this year. And then the major challenge is proving return on marketing investment. So analyzing that, and not only analyzing the content that you post in the various channels, but promoting it. And I think that one of the biggest things is not only realizing and deficiency is the wrong word, but it's the limitations of our channel out there to distribute content, but also internally. So we had to coach our internal team to share and be a part of that strategy. It's not only a marketing strategy, and marketing does everything and posts everything and follows up. It's every other team member. And the two other major team members is for sure pre-sales, so our sales team, and post-sales, our service team, to be a part of that distribution of those messages and that content. So that's my 2 cents.
Angelo, well said. So one of the things I want you to take away for the content and the social strategy is, what is the process, what is the discipline, and are there any tools that the panelists have come up with that kind of help you manage it? Because social can get away from you real fast because it's fun, right? And it's easy, and you can spend a lot of time there, and it could not amount to a lot We got to look at the impact. I think Cheryl might have a couple of tips there related to social to build on what Angelo said.
Actually, Cheryl does not. Cheryl's on the opposite end. Our content strategy is really in development. And for Foodbuy, we are, if you think of B2B, we're actually B2B to B2B because we're managing contracts. And so our customers might be, I'm thinking of a campaign that just launched and is going really well, that we launched with IHG, International Hotel Group. So our customer is International Hotel Group Corporate, and we have worked with them and we have said these are our contracts. When you want to buy your cheese and your milks and your dairy and your chicken, I think we sold how many million pounds of chicken? 619 million pounds of chicken. Huge numbers. So we're selling that at the corporate level. From the corporate level, IHG then has 5 different hotels. So of those hotels, we now have to get that message from us to IHG corporate, and then IHG needs to get that to each of the hotels, and then from the hotel, it needs to then get to the unit manager who's actually ordering and buying. So when you get down to who is actually utilizing our contracts, they have never heard of Foodbuy, have no interest in knowing Foodbuy, and Foodbuy is not forefront. We just provide those contracts. So when you start thinking about a content strategy, we're then trying to think of who do we get to. We then layer that with, we have 3 different distinct channels. We have healthcare, we have food service, and we have hospitality. So hospitality, of course, is with IHG. Hospitality goes to market very differently than IHG. Hospitality goes to market direct. They want to direct what our hotels are doing, complete ownership of that contract utilization. On the healthcare side, it is illegal to do that, and so on the healthcare side, you are more fee-based so that we can provide them, and we've got to coax them and let them know what's the best thing. And again, for all of our contracts, we have a flexibility strategy. We don't go to market and say, if you are working with Foodbuy, you must be on 100% of our programs. So we allow them to have that flexibility. So that's healthcare. And then in the food service, we're talking about contract utilization at the restaurant level. So we don't have a defined content strategy. This is our 15-year anniversary. Foodbuy in July will be 15 years old. And we are still figuring all of this out because working with our customers that way is very different than on the Compass Group side, where if we say there is a new contract for chicken, it is what it is, they must buy it. So that's a different strategy than talking to our customers. So unlike my friend Angelo here, who has a defined strategy, even though he's got challenges around it, we are still trying to figure out what is the best way to do that, to get to that customer, and to do it within the different channels that we have.
So often the case in business to business, there's a lot of layers, and figuring out the layers and demystifying that, I think, can be a really big challenge, and I can see you all are involved in that aspect of it. But Cheryl said something really important. I don't know if you caught that, but she talked about decision makers. How are we going to reach the decision makers? Because that's the ultimate gauge, and can we impact them? Social could be a good tactic, or not. But we thought we should have the panel address that because decision makers are ultimately who we want to try to influence with our marketing plans and our marketing initiatives. So for that, we're going to turn to Dana. And the question is, how does your team identify and market to decision makers? How do you ensure that your company stands out?
So I think this crosses over, and I was going to follow up on the content strategy into what I started to explain at the beginning was, we're a much smaller company competing with companies that have many multiples the resources that we have. So, and we have a team of 2. We use some external expertise as needed. But one of the key things that we started doing a year ago is understanding that we would not, we have a cloud-based enterprise software offering. We would not be able to out-feature, out-function our competitor that has an R&D team that's 4 times our size. It wasn't going to work. So about I would say about a year ago, we really started, we had built the engine, the infrastructure of marketing, and then we started thinking the fuel. What's the fuel? How do we break through the noise? Because we're not going to be everywhere our competitors are going to be. It has to be something unique. And that's what I think about when I think about thought leadership, is how can you say something that is going to be compelling to the executives you're trying to market to? How can you say something that is just a little bit different than they've heard anyplace else? And it has to be real. It can't be a marketing campaign. It has to be something that is based fundamentally on the core values of the organization you're working with. It has to be true. So we worked a lot with our customers. We worked a lot with our internal folks that had been with Verian a long time. What are the core values here? You know, what do we do? Why do we win? When we win, why do we win? You know, why do they select Verian? And we went through a series of pieces. We worked with our analysts, Gartner, Forrester, some of the more niche analysts in our particular market. And it's been about a year-long process of vetting our thought leadership position. So this is what is fundamentally our approach in e-procurement that is different than any other vendor out there. We vetted it with a core set of our strategic customers. We vetted it with our analysts. We vetted it with prospects. We've been out kind of not talking about the whole brand because we're actually launching an ebook next week that is the culmination of all of this thought leadership work. And I was on a call with the main analyst from Gartner, and she had previewed our ebook that we had written. Lindsay, you're looking way more awake than you should, having shepherded that project. She survived Dana's ebook project. But I was talking to the analyst at Gartner, and she said something that is probably one of the most, like, music to my ears, one of the things I will remember in my career. Here's the lead analyst at Gartner, and she says, Dana, I don't see any other vendor doing this, and I think it's really cool. We nailed it. I mean, when you hear an analyst say that you're doing something that is compelling, and then she started sending me research that they had done, predictions that Gartner had done, that support where we're going with our thought leadership statement. So now we've got the analyst community bought into this whole new innovation around e-procurement. So that, to me, is some of the hardest work we do in marketing. To come up with something that nobody else is saying, it's that innovation. And that's when you capture the strategic thinkers in the organization. You know, when you talk about how do you get to the decision makers, well, first of all, you know that one of the trends is you don't have the control over the buying process in B2B that you used to. People are out there looking before they're ever ready to make or have a discussion around a transaction. And so you have to be out there way ahead of the game and branding yourself in a unique way. So when I think about this thought leadership piece, that is the key to the content strategy, is the content. What is it that you're going to say? And once you have refined something that can be really compelling, can really move the needle, don't worry about how much content you're getting out there. Make sure it's all related to your strategy. I hear a lot of, other folks that'll talk about, well, we got to get more blogs and more this and more that and more this. And actually, it's about everything reinforcing the message you're trying to brand. Everything should be saying the same thing repetitively. It's not about quantity of flooding the market on various topics that your industry is interested in. It's about using every channel that you can possibly get to with your given resources and reinforcing what your message is. And so to me, social media, I think of it as LinkedIn, where now you can start to actually see the productivity of those channels with the ability to target and actually promote things within those channels and groups. So we're able to track that a little bit better than we used to be. I think people are more active. 5 years ago, even 5 years ago, people were, not using those channels in a business-related way. Now they are. I think of LinkedIn as kind of the brain of the organization. That's the business side. Facebook is more the heart of the organization. I look at Facebook as the culture. That's where you put your culture stuff. Don't put business stuff on Facebook, and don't put culture stuff on LinkedIn, because you're going to annoy those audience. That's not what they're looking for in those channels. And so when we look at Facebook, it's more about the recruiting side of our organization than it is about the selling side, right? How do you get quality people into your organization? Because we have an awesome culture, right? That we do cool stuff. We have fun, we work hard, but we have fun. So hopefully I've answered kind of a segue into the last one, and then kind of my thoughts on, you know, getting to the decision makers. I mean, it's marketing, you know, it's always changing, it's always the same, right? It's what do they care about? How can you push their buttons?
Thank you, Dana. You heard a lot of good things there. I took away from that some what I would consider basic marketing questions that everybody needs to answer in this room for their organization and for your department. So how do we win? How are we uniquely differentiated? What's our thought leadership strategy, and how do we push it out? And let's choose the right channel to push it out. A lot of good things going on there, you know, with under Dana's leadership. We're going to shift over now because we haven't heard from Mike yet. And we're going to ask Mike if you could pick up on this issue of cross-functional teams. So here's the question. Do you feel like you have to educate on the value that marketing brings when working in cross-functional groups? We all need other functions to support our initiatives. How can sales and marketing specifically work together successfully toward the ultimate goal?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great challenge, and you know, getting back to a little bit of what Dana said, at MSC, I think it's unique for us that we really try to start with the why. Like, why are we doing this? What is it? What's the advantage that it's going to have from the customer, and how can we partner with them to have them accomplish their goals? And we have common goals at MSC, so it comes down from our executive team that this is the goal for the year, and then all of our departments align around that. And the way that sales and marketing work together within our organization is we're partners at the same table. We bring, if one of us is not represented at the table, we make sure to go bring that other person there, because we can't do it by ourselves. And you guys have probably all been in situations where you felt like you were trying to push something that the sales force maybe didn't agree with or whatnot. That's probably not the most productive. It gets back to the why, and understanding why you're doing it, and getting those two teams agreed on why it's happening and what needs to happen and how. Those teams will get creative and figure it out and work together to get it done. But it really starts with that partnership. So we're pretty fortunate at MSC that we kind of have that goal set at the top, kind of roll down to all the rest of the departments, and then, you know, make sure that you have that sales partner with you as you engage.
You know, in a case like yours, which is you're so e-commerce oriented, does IT become your best friend over at MSC?
Best friend and keep your enemies close. You know, in digital, you're trying to move so fast, and you know, we talk about the marketing's changing fast and the digital's changing fast. So you really do rely on IT as well, right? So you're bringing that partner to the table as well, and you know, you really get your art of persuasion going on between how do you negotiate resources and time and share, right? Because everyone wants IT for something or another, but again, having that true partnership, I think you're bringing up a good point, John, is definitely needed.
Thank you, Mike. We're going to jump to trends now. We ask each one of the panelists to come up with one trend that we should all keep our eye on in 2016. I'm going to start with Cheryl, and then we'll work our way down the table so we can hear one big trend or even 1 and 1A that you feel like we should all keep our eyes on.
I think Dana alluded to it, and that is, I think right now, the trend is being able to tell an amazing story about your company, about your products, about your brands, so that you can humanize it, so that people have that connection to you, that they know, okay, I can identify and I want to buy from that company. So as I think about that, and I think back to the challenge that I talked about with trying to get to the unit manager of a huge hotel, and your customer is at the corporate level, that's where our challenge is. How do we begin to humanize contract utilization? That's something that is super exciting, but how do we humanize and tell amazing stories about contract utilization beyond it's going to save you money? I mean, that's really important. So that's what I think. I think the humanizing and really telling the story.
Very good. Thanks, Cheryl. Angelo, one trend that we should keep our eyes on?
I think to play off of Cheryl's buy comment, I think the biggest thing for us is answering the why buy our product and then how to buy our product. So I think one of the biggest trends, and we said demystifying or even decluttering a little bit, is is the increasing complexity of the purchase decision. And so with the buyer, in our case is a chef, the end user, having social media outlets for reviews, having e-commerce, our dealer websites for shopping, the option for direct or relationships, and all the word of mouth. You know, how do we influence the different layers, and which ones do we then try to focus on making it the easiest experience for the end user to get to our product and to get to our message ultimately that we want to transmit.
Thank you. Dana, a big trend that you see out there.
To Mike, and then maybe I can go last.
Okay, that's fine.
All right,
That's a
excellent.
pass, Mike, so you
So
got to
you're
jump.
not going to take my
No,
answer?
I don't want to influence your answer.
No, I think for us, I see everyone. They have these mobile devices probably in front of you. I didn't catch anyone looking at any notifications or anything. You're all right. Everyone's paying attention, John. So that's good. But I had to say mobile, and you know what? Our customers in the B2B space right now aren't like clamoring for it. They're not like knocking down the door and saying, guys, you need a mobile site. But we're looking towards the future, and we're saying, hey, there's going to be a new generation that's going to come and take on leadership roles in these organizations, and that's going to be the expectation, right? So if you can imagine, I talked earlier about manufacturing plants and facilities. You know, we've been testing this water a little bit, and we've invested money and time in a mobile website, and it's about learning really what they're going to use it for. So if you imagine that facility or someone troubleshooting some plant operation, do they need the phone and the mobile just to do a little research? Dana mentioned earlier, more people are going to the web before they even talk to a sales associate, right? They're doing all that research, and so do they need it for research? Or is it they need it to buy right then and there? You know, maybe you're on your ride home and you're not supposed to look at your phone, so don't do it on your way home today. But you forgot to place that order, right? Do they need to put that order so they don't shut down their manufacturing floor tomorrow because they forgot to order that part today? So we're keeping our eye on that. You know, I would have loved to have said social, and I agree with a lot of what the panel has said here. Social for us hasn't been a major focus, and I believe it's about time. These people that we're doing business with from a B2B standpoint, when they clock out at the end of the day, they don't want to interact with MSC, the brand anymore. They want to go on to their interests and hobbies. So with Angelo having great food products and things that attract the foodies and interest, he probably has more of a play there. And right now, we really in our space haven't really figured that out yet. So and I don't know if we will, but I believe it's about time.
Okay, good. So we've heard about telling stories and the importance of storytelling. We've heard about mobile devices. We've heard about understanding the complexity of the purchase decision. Okay, Dana, it's your turn.
I know. So
Oh, boy.
what's the mystery answer? No, I mean, and full disclosure, I missed the prep session. I've been traveling, and so I was looking at these questions as I was flying back from Dallas late last night, and I was thinking to myself, the trends. And I probably have been in marketing probably longer than, I won't tell my age, but, and to me, everything is always changing and everything is always staying the same. Our channels are changing, how we're able to utilize our channels, how we're able to track our channels, but the fundamentals of marketing always stay the same, right? Who are we selling to? What are we selling? Why do they care? How do we get in front of them? How do we get in front of them changes a lot. How can we tell if we're getting in front of them? But I would say, if I look at major trends, we have to keep track of all of our channels, right? We have to understand golly, back when the pendulum swung from print mail to email, and then I'm like, well, actually nobody gets mail anymore, so that'll get through the clutter, right? So I think that things always stay the same, even though our channels are always changing. We always have to keep track of those things. But I do think that one of the most important things from a marketing perspective is the availability of knowledge, right? The availability of knowledge out there, and it is doing what we've been talking about of moving the power in the sales cycle to the buyer versus the seller. Because knowledge is so transparent, readily available. Now you can see all of you don't set up a reference call and control that anymore, right? You've got all your references out there publicly available. So, so I think that, I believe all these things are changing. But I think the most important thing to understand is, and I hate it because I love measuring marketing results. I mean, I'm an engineer by background. How I ended up in marketing is a long story. But I love measuring results, and the more that we have to be out there not knowing when our buyers are being educated by us is kind of a frightening thing. But I think that's the reality.
Well said. The perfect segue, because we're going to spend some time now on this theme of resource allocation, and the way I like to define that is it's people, programs, and processes. So everybody in this room has to manage their own personal time, and some people have to help manage other resources for the company. Sometimes they have staff members. Sometimes they have monetary budgets that they have to manage. Sometimes you just manage a process, and you're trying to get the maximum out of that process. You're trying to get the maximum out of that program or out of those people. And that's really important because our organizations, whoever our ownership is, they're investing. And at some point that investor comes to call and they want to know, what am I getting out of that marketing department? And we got to do more than just be stewards of our marketing department. We need to be builders of our company's brand, builders of our company's business. If we do, marketing's actually going to grow. Marketing is stagnant, chances are our company's not growing. So it's really important that we not only understand those programs, the processes, and the people, but then what are the outcomes, the outputs, and how do we measure those? Is it making a difference? Is it making a difference? And I know this is something that the panelists really wanted to touch on because it's absolutely fundamental to all of our career success here as we think about resource allocation and then return on investment. So I think, Dana, you've got that one, and you wanted to touch on that. I think you just talked about it just a minute ago. Can you start us off, and then we'll have some others chime in?
Sure. Being an engineer by background, I have to measure everything, which has been kind of it's especially in areas where I work in enterprise software, where we have executives that tend to be more technical or engineers themselves. There's a process that, as I said, we built the first year. We kind of built the engine because we had to track everything. And so at this point, one of the questions that we were going to answer were, what were your major successes last year? And so if I look at the success of marketing from last year, what we've accomplished in Verian, I can tell you that our overall size of our sales pipeline is 35% higher than it ever has been in the company. And those are more highly qualified leads because we put in a different qualification process through our inside sales team. And I can tell you it was 96% sourced from marketing activities. And my sales counterpart will agree with me because we did it together. And so that, when I look at marketing success, it's all about how does marketing scale revenue. I can tell you some things that contributed to our ability to do that, but I'll tell you the rest of the executive team, and this is typical as you all as marketing professionals, the rest of your executive team may not be marketing savvy. They don't understand why we're running a branding campaign and it didn't get as many sales qualified leads as this demo we're getting. Well, of course not, because that's over here and this is over here, but they don't really care. And you can kind of explain till you're blue in the face the philosophy of marketing and nurturing, all those things, but the rest of your executive team cares about how is our sales pipeline growing? How is it how is marketing contributing to that sales pipeline? And I'll tell you, if you can align sales and marketing, you can develop, and I would say at Verian, that's probably one of our major success factors, is the first year we built that engine. The second year, the beginning of that year, we hired a sales leader. And the two of us have then, working in alignment, been able to build that pipeline. So it's not marketing did this and sales did this, is we did this together, and if you asked him, he'd say the same thing.
Thank you, Dana. Very good. Yeah. So the question is resource allocation and measuring the marketing contribution. Who else would like to chime in on that one?
I can chime in on it. We've had some successes this year. As you can tell, I love digital. I'm the e-com guy, right? So I'm gonna continue down some of the digital successes that we've had as more and more customers, turn their spend and their eyes towards that digital channel. And we've invested heavily in our pay-per-click and search engine marketing campaigns, and they've always done well for us. And they've continued to do well, but now we're starting to get into more shopping feeds, because we can actually sell products directly to the customers that are out there. And we made some exciting changes recently to our campaigns there. And what we saw was, from a shopping campaign, you've seen them, those little images that pop up in the Google results and say these are the shopping or products that you may be interested in. Our hypothesis was that people are finding the items there and they're clicking through, but they were bouncing. As soon as they got to the site, they would leave. So our belief was the picture looked right, so we must have been in the right forest or the right jungle, right? But when they got there, they just didn't interact and engage. And we've changed that experience now so that they don't just get to the product detail page, they get to that product detail page, plus we show them all the other colors, sizes, options that are available for a product that looks similar to that, right? And since we've done that, we've been able to obviously increase the engagement and decrease that bounce rate, and our conversion rates are increasing. And the money that we're spending on those ads that are getting those impressions, it's very easy to spend money and get those impressions, but if they're not actually converting, then it's with us. And what I love about digital, and you probably love this too, is that you can actually measure that stuff now. Whereas before you kind of had to make some assumptions and you knew impressions, but I mean, what happens now is, man, you can kind of overanalyze sometimes because you have so much data now from a digital perspective, and you answer one question and that means 5 more questions are coming, right, on really and then what happened, and then what happened. So we've made some real strides there, and we can focus on those things, and we're going to continue to focus on those things because they are bringing back that higher ROI, and in digital we can really measure that more effectively.
Very good, thank you, Mike. We have one more round. It's going to be on personal and career development, but we're going to save that one for the end, because I think at this point it's good for us to create some interaction here and take some of your questions that you might have. So remembering our themes in reverse order, we just went over resource allocation, return on investment. We went over trends that the panel's seeing for 2016 and beyond, cross-functional teams and how we work with our partners in other departments, decision makers and how do you reach them. And we also talked about content and social strategy. So we'd like to try to confine it to those areas for today, but we're open and ready to take your questions. If you would raise your hand, I'll recognize you, and then you can ask a question of one of the panelists. Okay, yeah, they're in the back. Would you mind stand up and just give us your name, where you work, and then shoot that question out there?
I am Nina Rez. I work at WasteQuip. It's an international environmental manufacturing company. And my question is about the cross functionality and social media together. So right now we're trying to talk to our sales team, and I'm creating a webinar that I'm doing tomorrow about teaching them why it's important to them. And I know that someone, I think Electrolux, I think that you had mentioned that you had been coaching them internally on, how this is important, and I didn't know if you wanted to go further into that.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna end your webinar on saying that I've put all this effort forward with developing this strategy, and then now I need the participation of everyone from our team, and this is the team that we deal with ongoing. I mean, we have customer service 2 rows over. We have our internal technical team 2 rows over. Even from our logistics perspective and inventory management team that sits 4 rows over from where I am, it's these types of people that I meant that you need to engage in, and everybody in some way is familiar with being on Facebook or contributing as much as you want. But I mean, what does it mean to like a piece of content? What does it mean then to share a piece of content? And we're just trying to have that discussion because we want people to also feel that their departments are not only support departments, but also contributing departments to the full the full strategy of the company. So customer service being on the phone or technical support being on the phone is not only to diagnose, but recommend. So then how do you recommend if you're not part of that? And that's what we're trying to do now, is make them part of the experience. So when we engage a chef with a new form of technology, and now you have customer service knowing that same message in technical, well, when there's a problem or a challenge on that, then you have all aspects of the company that are involved in it. I think that Dana talked about involvement a little bit of multiple people. So that's really what we're trying to do, is really involve the different departments.
Thanks for your question. Who else has a question for the panel?
Well, can I offer another kind of follow-on to the previous question while people are thinking of their questions? We were talking about the crossover between social and your traditional promotion channels. And what I found when you're really, I mean, LinkedIn is everybody knows it's getting very noisy and very, marketing is flooding LinkedIn with lots of stuff. But to leverage the employees across your organization in looking at LinkedIn as a collective network is really important. So when you're running your webinar and you have a promotion and you promote it on LinkedIn and then you send it out to the whole company and they promote it on their LinkedIns, so, LinkedIn pipelines, you get a lot more visibility. And so, you have to look at that kind of as the collective network of the entire company. And, the other piece of LinkedIn, that we use from an inside sales perspective is understanding where we can reference and drop names. It's really important when we take all of our executives and we put all of our LinkedIn information in, and we have somebody that we may be talking to, and we find out that, hey, they went to my college, or there's always something that you can find if you really connect your LinkedIn and look at it as a collective organization. It leads to your ability to warm up all those calls because there's a personal connection you can make so often using the power of LinkedIn. So.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Other questions that we might have? Yes. Well, if you could just provide your name, where you work, and then your question.
Hi, this is Amy Goodson. I'm with Command Partners. And are there any, what we consider traditional marketing methods that you still find are tried and true, that you still use despite moving forward in this digital age and with new things coming up all the time? Are there certain things you always fall back on because they are tried and true and have stood the test of time?
Yeah, I can take a stab at this one. If you saw our go-to-market strategy, it's still a 4,000-page catalog. All right, so it is huge. It's printed on Bible paper. It's got to be that thin, right? So we still believe in that, and we still, each year that we push that out, it still has a pop in our sales. We also, we were talking earlier with the gentleman that I met at our table who's in printing. We're printing more pieces than we probably ever had before, and it's all in support of leading them to the digital channel, right? Lower cost to serve. If I get them to transact there, it's more self-serve. I'm not paying for someone to take the call. So Dana mentioned it earlier. Things are different, but they're still kind of the same. We're still using the old tricks, but we're trying to meld them with how do we apply them in this digital age and make that a consistent experience. So when they hop from one channel to the next, it's consistent.
Food. Just saying.
Tried and true.
Tried and true.
I would agree with that. When it comes to tried and true, we definitely excel at that. So, but we're still providing information, a lot of communication information on what these contracts are and product utilization and yield and those things. So it is those same things, and the same thing with how people purchase. They're still purchasing, not from a 4,000-page catalog, but they're still purchasing online and the same format of the things that are there, because from a unit manager's perspective, when he or she is ordering for that day's food or a big catering event, they just want to be able to have it easy. They want to be comfortable and have what they've always been used to. So there is some merit to what Dana says, that sometimes what's old is new and what's new is old. We're looking at making that shopping cart experience different, but it's still going to be a shopping cart experience.
Right. Yeah, great question. Thanks. Any other questions? Yes, please.
I was told you were LA-based across the accounting firms, a very different kind of business, but there are some similarities. My question is about public relations. When PR sort of morphed into a very noisy environment, particularly with social media that's created DIY mentality, how has your strategy related to PR changed as the digital space has become so far online?
I'm shaking my head because I'm thinking about this one. When I think of PR, I think of the calls that we get from any of our sectors, and this is more on the sector side, more so than the member customer side. If there's an issue with food safety or anything that has to do with the food itself, it comes back to Foodbuy, because of course we manage the contracts, and of course Compass Group wants to say, Foodbuy, what is the response to? So I think about last year when avian flu just consumed us, because it was the biggest industry scare that we have ever had. It changed the way so many things happen. And that was something that for the first time Foodbuy had to come to the forefront, versus before we could pass information through the sector, writing what the response is, but passing it through. We had to be at the forefront of saying, this is what the messaging is, don't tweak it, this is it. Because it was very technical, it was very, this is what the message has to be. It cannot deviate, because it had all of the right information that we worked with from legal and quality assurance, and certainly category and knowing what was going on. So I think the PR strategy for us is really understanding that when something happens, what is the appropriate response? My general response when I get calls from the media, because they want to know, oh, we heard that this supplier is now working with this customer, our immediate response is Foodbuy does not comment on our supplier relationships or the agreements that we have. But there are times where we have to have something that is in the forefront, and avian flu was definitely one of those and challenged us quite a bit.
Very good. We have time just to go for a quick spin through the panel, and we're going to ask for, it's a career and personal development question. And the way we want to address that is, all of you are leaders, large companies, corporate marketing programs. How do you continue learning, and how do you make time for your professional development? So why don't we start back over with you, Mike, and then we'll work our way back this way.
Yeah, great. Yeah, when I think about personal development, I think about all those articles my CMO is sending me to go read, right? So there are all types of different, new twists on some of the old things that we've done, right? That we just need to take advantage of. And I like to think of it as sometimes those new things are just being created, and you're not going to be able to read a lot about them in books. So being out there, seeing what the latest trends are, what the latest articles that are being published will help. And then networking events like this, I hope that you guys enjoyed today and learn and picked up pieces of knowledge along the way. So I think it's important to do these as well.
Thanks, Mike. Dana?
Yeah, I would echo that. I think, when we get together as, marketing professionals and we share kind of the good, bad, and the ugly, I think that's really important to learn from real world experience. And then coupling that with, I'm the worst at keeping on track of reading articles, so I have to actually have some time carved out, either whether I go to a conference, or we've gone as a team to a conference around a particular area of marketing, or we'll set up a lunch and learn at work, and we'll do a webinar that's on demand from a Gartner or a Forrester or another type of firm. But for me, just my personality, the article is always going to take backseat to the 10 things that I have to do right here. I actually have to carve time out of my schedule to devote to that, and so that's my thing.
Angelo?
I think it's talk to people. I think the biggest realization that we have in our commercial industry is that the competitor is a bad person. It's when you're out there, talk to the competition and make them realize that you know, exchanging ideas without revealing secrets is a good exchange of information. I mean, we spend a lot of time on the road. We're a small department. We have an allocation of just so many activities that each one of us attends a year and supports out in the marketplace. And it's really, what do you bring back? And if you don't engage with people and break down those walls and learn from others, then you're always going to be stuck in the same momentum, and it's going to be your momentum. And I think that the two other things, I mean, Jillian mentioned it when she was up on the podium, and John up there, it's look at complementary companies. I mean, I knew Jillian before Electrolux when she worked with Pregel, and Pregel is a complementary food service company to us. Cheryl now, meeting Cheryl for Foodbuy, and John with S&D. I mean, these are ideas of other companies that are maybe come off as a little bit less threatening because it's not competitive, but that have the same challenges. So look to those resources too.
Thanks. Well said.
Yeah, I agree with what everybody has said about the networking and talking to others and doing what you do and working with groups. I also like a little bit of independent study. So I devour, the only magazine that I really read is Harvard Business Review. So every other month I make time to go through and read that. I find that very interesting. I'm also hooked on podcasts. I listen to podcasts from everything to, you know, TED Talks and what's going on, and there's another one that's entrepreneurial. I used to be an entrepreneur, so I still have, you know, I still like to dabble in that as well. So I like that independent. I can listen to it as I'm driving, sometimes as I'm cleaning the house or doing things at home. I just put on my earphones. I like to do that. And then there's also courses that you can attend. Right now, all of the graduate schools are really challenged because there's not as many people in the classrooms, and affordability and grants and how they're funded, that's a whole different issue. But most of the graduate programs are offering online certification courses. So if it's something that you're interested in, there's so many things that you can do and go out and get the information. But certainly talking to people is one thing. I just like to find the things that I'm interested in and delve into them, and I like to listen to it.
Thank you. Well said. Didn't the panel do a great job today? Let's give them a hand.